joining us live on LinkedIn and in YouTube for our final Lunch and Learn 2025. I'm 𝗟𝗘𝗦𝗦𝗢𝗡, LinkedIn Top Voice, People Analytics Leader, and also passionate about HR and top People Analytics topics. This is our 26th, 27th edition of Lunch and Learn, that series that I have started this year. What a journey it has been. No sponsors, no filters, just a real powered by curiosity, by community and bold ideas. Today, my co-host 𝗟𝗘𝗦𝗢𝗡𝗦 that will co-host me every Friday. I hope that he can join very soon, and he's joining that just now. Welcome, welcome, George. And to guide us through it, I have the immense honor to welcome Dave Ehrlich, the father of modern HR thought leader of the decade, professor of the School of Business, University of Michigan, and a partner of RBL Group, whose work has shaped how we think about leadership, people, performance across the globe. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Oh, good afternoon to you, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where people are. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you and George.
It's great to see you as well, Dave, and hello, Nicholas.
Hi, George. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have both of you today. It's the last event, Lunch and Learn, that I just said, George. It's the 26th Lunch and Learn that we have. We are doing that together. We'll explore during this 1 hour the big lessons of 2025. What changed? What challenged us? What surprised us for as HR people? We will look at the top HR trends for 2026 from agentic AI, skill-based organization, redesign, leadership. And this is not just a recap, it's about Launchpad, because 25 taught us anything is that HR is no longer just a strategic works. George will be monitoring in the chat and jumping in whether the conversation take us. So I will leading the question with Dave. So feel free to engage, reflect, and challenge us. Let's make this final session one to remember. Dave, before we dive into the trends and the future, let me start with a human question that I would like to ask you. Let me start. Do you think 2025 was a tough year for a HR professional? And between return to office, rise of AI, empathy, efficiency of empathy, many in HR have felt stretched like never before. From your perspective, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think everyone on the call is probably feeling, if we had a little poll and said 0 to 10, 10 is high, 0 is low, how stressed or how burned out are you? I bet the average would be 7. By the way, I have to say this in terms of data, because Nicholas is always committed to data. So everyone would be 7, 8, or 9. It would be a high demand year. But that may be the world we live in today, that we may say, oh, it's going to get better tomorrow. I don't know. I think we live in a world of perpetual uncertainty, and see that happening to the world that we live in. But in the midst of that, I think sometimes in those tough times is when people actually grow the most. And so one of the exercises, I'll do this real quick, I love to do is to have people raise their hands. Can you think of a time when you had something that didn't go well, a failure or something that didn't go well? And everybody has one. I don't ask them to share that. How did you feel at the time? I felt stressed. I felt burned out. It was really difficult. Then the next question, how much did you learn from that shapes who you are and what you do today? And I have people share. I learned I could do anything. I learned I could deal with pressure. I learned to be resilient. I learned to have a growth mindset. I think out of that tough year comes a good year. The line I want to end this introduction with, and then I'll say something else, is Winston Churchill once said, this is not the end, it's the end of the beginning. I think this isn't, and George, I don't know if I said that right, as my British colleague. Close enough. But I hope 2025 is the beginning of a better year in 2026. So before we get going, I've got to thank Nicholas, you and George. I love ideas. I love to learn. That's my passion. And your daily posts are, if you were a religious person, they're like a religious mantra. that they just keep me going. And I love them because I don't agree with all of them. And it's not you, it's the research, but it triggers me to think outside of my framework. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave, for your kind words. We are here to learning. With George, we have started, we are receiving so many HR leaders, so many HR professionals, startup around the world, and we are learning all together about that. Dave, I know wanted to start with your slides because today is a very informal discussion between us. But how do you see the evolution of HR and human capability in your view?
I think there's a pattern in our field that says from administrative to strategic, day-to-day to long-term. I disagree with that. I think it's always and also. We still have to build on what's been done. In fact, I see too often in the world in which we live, people come up with an idea, but they're not building on the past. They're recycling old news. And so I put together a very simple, and I also love simplicity, 4-step model. Personnel, support HR in gray. We do terms and conditions of work. We still have to do it. Then we do functional HR in red. We add HR practices, staffing, training, development. Then we do human capital, also in gray. It should be in blue, but we do human capital. We align those practices with strategy. We make sure we have individual talent. I think we're now moving to the yellow column. The yellow column begins to say, we've done strategic HR. Myself, you, George, many of us, most of those listening. I think we're going to evolve and build on that to what I call stakeholder HR. I think this is not just a reinvention, but it's an inflection point. And the world we live in is causing us to change in dramatic and huge ways. This inflection point has 4 pivots. Let me go to the next slide, and then we'll get into our comments. I think these 4 pivots reflect this inflection point. Number 1, HR is not about HR. That the investments in people and organization, what we do in HR, all of the things that Nicholas talks about and George talks about in their post, deliver value to all stakeholders, not just the employee. I think the human and human resources are all the human beings who engage with the firm. That's an employee, but a customer, an investor, a community, a business, the boards. That's a big pivot. It's a mindset. I'm in HR, human resources, to add value to all of those people. In fact, when I look at Nicholas's research that's posted so daily, I almost always use the term in my mind, so that. How will this work affect a customer? How will this work affect an investor? And sometimes the research says it, sometimes it doesn't. I could talk forever about that. That's a mindset that is so critical. Pivot 2, we need to be integrated. We often have pieces. We do a piece of HR work. At the Drucker Forum recently in Vienna, there were 38 modules that were all incredible. At other forums, there are dozens of modules. I believe that we need what's called a taxonomy. Just to make sure you know, I'm not an avatar. My research is taxonomic research. That was my PhD, and I'm in my office, by the way. Welcome to my office. Back then, decades ago, there was a company called Microsoft, or Microfiche, not Microsoft, and they sold your dissertation. My dissertation sold for $11.85. So I kept that check because it's $11.85. It probably would be $20 today. Taxonomy simplifies complexity. I believe in HR, there's 3 areas that we can use to deliver stakeholder value. In red is human capital and talent. What are we doing to get our people better? In the right-hand side, in organization, is workplace, culture, capability. And in the middle is leadership. Talent is the individual competence. Organization is the capability of the company. Leaders bring them together. We need to be integrated in that work, not piecemeal. Number 3, just final caveat, organization capability has more impact on stakeholders than individual competence. Pivot 3, we've got to reinvent and upgrade the HR department in purple. We know that the HR function is changing. We've got to integrate it. That integration becomes so critical, and the competencies of HR become so critical. And number 4, everybody wonders why I've waited so long to say it. AI, AI, AI. AI is just the dominant theme. I think, Nicholas, I don't think you've had a week this year go by without an AI post. And I think that will continue. We've got to integrate what we do and embellish it with AI. Those are the pivots. On the previous page, we need to do what I'm calling stakeholder HR, not just strategic, with 4 pivots. Those are the 4 pivots at the top of the yellow column. We build on what's been done. I don't discount the great work that we've done. But I think as we look forward into a 2026, we say, and let's go to the next slide and then I'll be done. HR is not about HR. It's about all the humans who engage with the firm. Call it stakeholder HR. 2, integrated human capability. Don't just do red talent individual. Don't just do the right-hand side organization, the dark brown. Also do the green leadership. Integrate those. Number 3, upgrade the HR function in purple and get great HR people. And finally, number 4, all of that is enhanced and embellished by HI and the algorithms of HI and the analytics. So, Nicholas, that's my overview. It's the inflection point I see for what we're facing as a great HR function going forward. Thank you.
That's
I have a
amazing.
question for you, Dave. Because you were talking about AI then, and Nicholas actually put a post on this week talking about agentic AI. And my comment there was, well, yes, agentic AI, that's fine. It will help you to look at the past, see where you are now. But when it comes to the future, I'm not sure it can actually cope with the incontinuity that's required for forward planning. So obviously you're going to have a human input. And I'm just wondering if you've thought about how there would be a balance between the use of agentic AI and this need to actually take on board the incontinuity that other areas are going to create.
2 quick reflections, George. First, thank you. I love your comments. I think we've been email friends for 10 years now. We and LinkedIn friends. So I so appreciate you and wish you and your lovely spouse well. But I think there's a new formula for talent. And the formula is AI times HI. AI we get, agentic AI, times human ingenuity. And George, to your point, AI does a wonderful job summarizing the past. What's been done? If you're in a firm today listening and your firm primarily does benchmarking, I hope you've got a good resume, because I think AI is going to learn how to benchmark. It just summarizes that. Times human ingenuity. And George, you said it well. AI looks backward. Human ingenuity looks forward. It envisions. It's creative. It has empathy. AI cannot predict what hasn't been done because it uses data from the existing database. And so for me, the future of talent and the future of talent advantage is great AI. It's helpful. I use it sometimes. I don't depend on it. And there's a danger of AI. But it's times HI. Without the human ingenuity, we're not going to have a talent advantage. We're going to have parity. AI gives you parity. It lets you do what everyone else has done, but you don't win with parity. You win with differentiation. Quick anecdote. I have a good friend who's in law school, and she's finishing her 3rd year. And I said, how's it gone? She said, it's been great. I'm on a team now, Dad, with, I just think I told you who my friend is, Dad, my daughter. I'm on a team. And I hope this doesn't get back. One of my teammates has done every one of her papers in law school for 2.5 years through AI. She's never written an original paper. And she's going to graduate with a law degree. And I said, how's she done? Well, to be honest, she's in the bottom 10% of the class. But she'll graduate. You know what? You could get through law school at the bottom 10% of your class with doing all papers AI. I'm not sure. In America, you have to pass the bar. There may be similar things in Europe. I'm not sure she's going to be able to do that. And I sure wouldn't want to hire her as my attorney because all she does is regurgitate what others have already said. You can use AI, but that's going to get you parity. It's not going to get you the advantage. So, George, I love the question. I think that 4th pivot point is AI becomes so critical, but we've got to be really careful. the second point I'll make on AI, because I know it's going to come up over and over again. AI is a means, not an end. AI is a means, not an end. When somebody says, I'm going to an AI conference, I say, why would you do that? I'm going to a conference on red and talent. I'm going to a conference on leadership on the top right in organization. AI is the enabler of that. It's a means to get something done right, but it's not the end. George, thank you. I think that AI discussion is imperative. I think, Nicholas, I bet in 26 we'll see a lot more. I hope we see it tied to stakeholder value. I don't see that as often as I could. How will AI help us better help customers buy our product more? How will it give investors more confidence? So anyway, thanks, George.
Absolutely fantastic discussion and insightful, findings, George. I love, your take about that. And what I like also, maybe in 2026, is reinvention of HR department and professional. Pivot number 3 is very important. And we will, discuss about that, in the coming minutes. I see that we have hundreds of people, joining us. Thank you so much for joining this discussion between Dave and us together. So please, put your location in the chat so we can see how global are the people joining us from US, from Europe, from everywhere in the world. We are discussing about HR. Now, George and Dave, we need to discuss about, let's begin with what HR conversation, many of the HR conversations still find their tension point about the where we work. Because this year, as you know, before we talk about AI skills strategy that we will discuss, more deep, it's just not about space where we work, but just about psychological space, relational space, the space that trust is built. I think on this first slide that I have selected, because we have I'm sharing a lot of research, as you know, this year, but this slide summarize very great what is, between something striking, that while leaders and employees agree on the extremes, full-time office for one, full-time remote for others. This is the real gaps. And the real gap lies in the middle. I can say that employees overwhelmingly prefer autonomy and leaders prefer company control hybrid models, right? In your view, Dave, and I know that in the beginning of the year, we had this conversation with George as well, with you about what is your thought about hybrid, what would be, dominate this year is about hybrid or remote. And I know your thoughts about that, but what did we learn from the return to office push in 2025? And how do you see this evolving in 2026?
First of all, thank you for the data. I hope people who are interested in this, and you've posted his work, Nick Bloom from Stanford. He is, again, I think when you go to the doctor, you want to go to the best doctor. And I think Nick Bloom is superb in this area. The first comment I'll make is, I think where you work is the wrong question. I think why you work and what value you add to a customer is the better question. For example, George is in his office today. Look behind him. I'm in my office today. Look behind me. Welcome to my office. Nicholas is in his office. What we've just learned is that Nicholas is better organized than George or me, because his office is much cleaner and pristine. But if I'm creating value for a customer, I don't really care where I work. And so the why we work and what value we create for a customer or an investor becomes the driving question. Now, if that's the question, I hope leaders and employees recognize that the place we work should be a means to creating that stakeholder value that I talked about. Now, that's the first observation. I think we get obsessed. Second observation, and I think Nick Bloom and other research that you've posted, many companies are beginning to resolve this. Coming out of COVID, there was a big debate. Is it 2 days in the office, 3 days at home? Is it all in the office? I think every company is beginning to learn how that works and works best for them. Third observation is it's a very personal choice. I happen to be in a job where I work in my office at home. George, I think you work at home. I don't think you go to a rented office to sit and write emails. That doesn't make sense. Nicholas, you have both because your life is so complex. And I guess the final one that this data highlights is, I wish we could get leaders in purple and employees in green on the same page.
Absolutely.
Let's come to an understanding. If you can create value wherever you are, we'll let you do it. By the way, if you're not creating value, if you're working at home and spending all of your time not doing the work that needs to be done, then we got to come in. There's Peter Capelli just did a great book this year arguing that we need to go back to work. Nick Bloom at Stanford, Peter is at Wharton. At Stanford said we've got to be flexible in hybrid work. Two thoughtful folks. They're both right. Sometimes hybrid work works, work from home. Sometimes being in the office works to build a culture. I believe there's real value, and George consistently posts on this, of being together in the office. It builds the next generation. It helps people learn. It helps people grow. But to mandate it for everybody all the time is an overstatement for me.
Brilliant.
I think for me, working remotely creates a problem with development. You know, when you're in work, I mean, most of our learning isn't undertaken in a college. It's undertaken at work. We're actually watching other people, and we're listening to other people, and we're learning from those people.
Yeah.
And that is something that if you're going to have people working remotely, they're in individual silos, how is that going to be shared? How is other people's experience going to be shared? So we either go down one of two routes, either back full-time in the office, or we have a hybrid system whereby people can actually share the learning, put that learning into context, and create value for all stakeholders through that development. Now, the big problem there is that I don't believe that when leaders bring people back into the office, they use that time in a way that it should be used. It should be used for that development. It should be used for people to talk, to actually communicate, collaborate, and learn. And unfortunately, we hear of people coming back in the office, but I'm not quite sure what learning is actually taking place. So maybe when we talk about looking at how the employer looks at it and how the employee looks at it, maybe the two need to come together to look at this, the way in which people are developed, the way in which organizations are developed through their people, and to come up with a system that actually creates that value. That's my own personal view.
Fantastic, George. I completely agree. We have the pros, we have the cons. And as Dave said, hopefully these two graphs should be one day, we don't know, we will monitor these findings. I will monitor, next year, these findings as well. I will share. Hopefully these two bar from purple and red will be one time in the same percentage. Let's see. I hope so. But personalization of work, as Dave said, is very important. Thank you so much, both of you. I would like to move to the second tension point this year. One that's less visible, but they're absolutely critical, is about trust. This next slide that I have selected again, it was very difficult to select one, findings for this year, to summarize everything that happened this year. Is about reveal something profound, is about employee trust, humans, when it comes to career growth, coaching, development, but they turn to AI for speed, efficiency, task support. That's a signal that people want empathy over automation. When it comes to the moments that shape identity, purpose, progression, right? This is all the list of HR tasks that is summarized. I think it's amazing, this graph. And Dave, here what I love with you to explore, how can leaders and HR people bridge these two worlds, the human and the AI, to build trust accelerate growth, and design organization where both empathy and efficiency thrive.
You know, it's interesting as I look at that slide with you, Nicholas and George. What if we put it into a 2x2? We have low, high trust and low, high efficiency if you have the other side. So low trust and low efficiency, that's not going to be good for anybody. High trust, I trust you, but I'm inefficient. You know what? That's not going to be good either, because I'm going to be too slow. I'm not going to get there fast enough. I'm going to be behind. I'm going to have parity. I'm not going to have advantage. I have high efficiency and low trust. That's what this chart is showing.
Yeah.
You know what? That's not going to be sustainable, because we're human beings. We live together. We interact with each other. One of the studies I find really fascinating, and I can't remember who did it. It's a study out of Harvard over a lifetime of people as they age. What's the most compelling thing for lifetime satisfaction as you get into an age with a 6 or a 7 in front of it, as I am? And it's your relationships. It's your relationships. And that trust is central and imperative to building those relationships. And so the top right column, high trust, high relationships, or high trust is relationships, high efficiency is where I hope we're going with AI and HR, or with AI and HI, human ingenuity. I hope we can use AI to do the tasks that need to be done. Let me just elaborate on that just for a moment. People have said AI is going to cost people their jobs. We're going to hire fewer people. I think that's the wrong question again. The right question is, what task do I do as an employee that AI can do more efficiently? And there are many. I don't know, Nicholas. I'm going to confess, sometimes when I need to find a reference, I'm doing an article and I need to find a reference. It used to take me a lot of time to go dig up. I think Peter Drucker said this. I go on ChatGPT. When did Peter Drucker say this? Can you give me a citation? 30 seconds. I've got it. By the way, that's not the creative thinking, but it's so powerful. So I love to look at task of a job. If your entire job is processing information, all I do is process resumes. You know what? You're not going to have a job. But almost no job is simply processing information. It's making decisions based on the information. And as George said so eloquently earlier, those decisions have to focus forward, not backward. They have to give an advantage, not parity. They have to be an outcome for stakeholders. So for me, I think we have to have empathy and automation. I think it's a 2x2. Empathy, I have to feel like I'm cared for. And I don't want to be cared for. One of the risks of AI, I don't know if this has happened in Europe yet, but there's some lawsuits where the programs in AI, the algorithms for teenagers, provide empathy. They're trained to be empathetic. They're almost like a Rogerian psychologist. You're okay, thank you, keep doing it. And there have been a couple of cases that are just tragic, where teenagers have committed suicide or done other harm to them or somebody else because the AI was encouraging. That's what Rogerian therapy does. I think we got to get to that top right box. We've got to show empathy, trust, connection, human connection, and we've got to be efficient. If we have connection without efficiency, Gordon Hewitt from the UK had a great quote. If you're on the road to hell, don't go faster. Don't be more efficient. Slow down. Get on the right road. So I hope that top right box includes that empathy as well as automation. And every one of those items, succession planning, recruitment, workforce well-being, some of the tasks of that item can be done through automation. And many of those tasks have to be done through connection, relationship, and human intimacy. I think we just lost Nicholas for a minute, George. So I will see if you
I'm just looking at something that's come up in the chat here.
Okay.
From Ashwini.
By the way, you've just shown why automation is not perfect. You've done 26 of these, and we still end up with challenges with technology. It's not flawless. We do, and and we've all learned to live with that. So, George, go ahead.
I'm just looking at something from Ashwini, who's in India, and he says, "Hope you're doing well. I'm glad to join this insightful session with Dave Ulrich and George Kemish. I'm so happy to see you again. my discussion point is, how do we ensure performance visibility doesn't become proximity bias? And
Great
my
comment.
second question is that, do leaders trust
let's
AI
do one.
tools?
Let's do one question. I can barely get through one. Performance. I think one of the things we've learned, and it's not new, it's also very consistent, Nicholas, with what we just did. Performance is a 9-box. What means, and there's always 2 dimensions to the 9-box: behavior and performance. And so if performance is only outcome, results, not the behavior that led to the results, we're going to get short-term success. And so my comment to 𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗦 is that 9-box is all the 2x2 we just did. We have trust and relationships, and we have automation. You've got to navigate both of those to be successful. If it's only behavior, we're a bunch of really nice people who get together and love each other and care for each other, but we didn't succeed in the marketplace. That's not going to succeed. If it's only success and no worry about the behavior, we're going to create a toxic work environment. So I think the 9-box idea, the 2x2 that is also this chart, becomes so critical.
Thank you so much, Dave.
I think that probably answers the second question as well, which was, do leaders trust AI tools more than they trust employees working remotely?
Well said. I think we're ready to move to the next one. Yeah, I mean, this AI discussion will continue. AI is an enabler. It's not the end. I think it's a means, not an end. Decades ago, actually, at the business school, we knew we wanted to teach ethics. So you have 2 options. Option A, make a separate course in ethics. Option B, make ethics a part of every course: statistics, finance, marketing, economics. We obviously went with option B. I think that's where AI is going to go. AI is not a separate agenda. I don't go to an AI conference. I go to a conference on talent, leadership, organization. And AI enables those outcomes to occur. I think that's where we're probably going to end up over time. Okay, Nicholas, next slide. I think I see what you did.
Yeah, exactly. It's about performance that we just discussed. And it's a controversial for years about this topic. And this slide, I found it amazing when I, shared it last week, 2 weeks back. And this slide says it all. When asked how honest we are people about self-evaluation, 30% of the people, they said that they are brutally honest only. They are polishing. Others, they are polishing, downplaying, or simply saying that what they think their boss wants to hear. And for me, it's a moment that's supposed to drive performance. Discussion is the moment that's supposed to drive reflection between employees and their manager. But for many, it's becoming a checkbox, a mandatory HR ritual, I can say, that lacks impact. So Dave, I would like you take your take about this part, and we have discussed just before about this slide about empathy, and because there is empathy or performance appraisal, we need to have empathy. Manager needs to have empathy as well. But is this traditional performance appraisal will be dead in 2026, or it can be reimagined, not as a compliance task, but as a meaningful moment of dialogue between a manager and his for development?
First of all, I love the picture. We just have to say you've done a great job. I'm going to assume that you maybe didn't have to spend hours finding that picture, that AI may have helped you. That's where AI is an enabler. I love the line, I'm not honest. I just love what you're doing with this, and I love the data. It's a great example of using AI to make a better post. I think, and I'll try to answer this very quickly, performance reviews are the most criticized area in HR because nobody loves them. They have 4 steps. What's expected? How do you measure it? How do you have consequences? Pay, bonus, criticism. And how do you have a good conversation? So what is expected? How do you measure it? How do you have consequences? Pay for performance, conversation. The step that dominates is the 4th one. How can I have a good conversation with my boss and employee? I love the reason it's so difficult is sometimes the boss makes it difficult because they become somewhat critical. And sometimes we as employees, one of the tendencies is this is one of my favorite coaching lines. I judge myself by my intention. Others judge me by my behavior. So if I'm coaching a leader who tends to be gruff, tends to be more demanding than empathetic, and I say, I've collected data, you tend to be more demanding than empathetic, and that leader says to me, I'm being demanding because I love people. Well, that's a great intention, but your behavior doesn't reflect it. Let me help you get your behavior to reflect your intention. I hope we can help have more honest conversations so that in a performance review, we set the expectation, we measure the results, we have consequences, good and bad, finance, non-finance. Let's have a good conversation. When I coach leaders in performance management, I tend to not too obsessed about, is it ranking versus rating? Is it financial versus non-financial? I tend to say, let's make a good conversation. Let's make a good conversation. And I have 3 very specific tips, and I know we need to move on. Yeah. One, you know what? I'll do this really quickly. Quick anecdote. Yeah. Coaching a leader who is very dogmatic. An employee made a huge mistake that was going to cost the company a lot of money. He wrote an email. You made a huge mistake. You're going to be fired if you don't fix it. I hit a quick button. Don't send, don't send, don't send. He said, what should I send? Sentence 1, I care about you. Sentence 2, you have a great future in this company. And you made a huge mistake that will cost us money. Do not hide. And then sentence 3, what can we learn to go forward? I think that's the essence of a conversation. You care, you have a potential, and we're going to both learn so that we move forward. That's where performance conversations become so critical.
Well, Dave, it's amazing what you are saying, because so you believe on performance appraisal. Do you believe on the performance appraisal done by AI? Because I see some comments as well, you know, I'm covering George in the comments as well. Do you believe that performance appraisal with AI, there's a lot of startup, a lot of, you know, tools is coming with doing with employees they are using and also manager? Do you believe on that, or you think that the performance appraisal should be a real conversation without AI?
Real conversation. I'm going to be 90-10. I mean, it's never 100-0, but who wants to have a date with a computer? I mean, that's probably a bad metaphor, but I want that. I mean, if the computer says, I care about you in a robotic voice, you have a great potential. I mean, I want that manager to really show her empathy and her capacity to care for the employee. It would be fun to test that. I think if employees knew that they were being appraised by, I think AI can provide some information.
Yeah.
Let's look over the last year of how this employee performed. Let's look at how this employee did and provide information. But I think it's in person that the information gets delivered in a reasonable way. What do you think, Nicholas? We've been talking too much. What do you think?
I'd just like to look at something that Dr. 𝗟𝗦𝗢𝗡𝗏 has written here, because he says it's about AI. He says AI use risks people being even less honest in self-evaluation, as people can just quickly copy and paste in answers.
Great comment.
That's exactly that. And we discussed with Dave, you know, before this event, the AI comments in LinkedIn or any other platform. We don't know what people, you know, think really about them, because it's a robot, as you said about. We are discussing about a robot. I'm trying, you know, and those that you are attending this event as well, I'm trying, you know, to not answer AI comments. And George, you know, that's my advice as you. Don't answer them, because maybe by not answering them, they will less use this ChatGPT or any other tools.
I'm going to quickly add something to that, Nicholas, and that is, for anybody using AI, you need to realize that there is the problem of bias. It's not just bias in the written word either. It can be bias in the actual software that's been written. So people need to be very careful if they're copying and pasting something from AI. For me, I would never, ever copy and paste anything from AI to do with somebody's annual report, because that, if I was the receiver of that feedback, it would mean absolutely nothing to me. You know, those annual reports have to reflect honesty in not only how the leadership see the employee, but also how the employee sees the need for their own development in the future. And you're not going to get that through AI. That's my quick answer to it.
No, man, absolutely agree, George. And, you know, the only things that I'm doing in the post is this, you know, photos that I'm putting every day that I'm generating with AI. That's the only things. And even the sentence that is in the middle, it was me, I'm generating myself. So yes, let's use creativity. Let's use your creativity. Let's share your own thoughts is the best. So thank you, both of you, for this inspiring topic. Another topic, let's turn to the topic that's close to your legacy, Dave, about our operating model. I know there is a lot of questions, you know, before before this event, when I was preparing, you know, there was a lot of question about HR operating. Can you ask HR operating model to Dave, ask him, you know, the question, what he think about that? So that's why, you know, I started this amazing, you know, findings, this slide, the findings that I shared, you know, last week, maybe. It's a bold new vision of AI-infused HR model. It's built around 3 dynamic pods, you know, well, HRBPs. I'm sure there are a lot of in the LinkedIn live today. COEs, that what we call COEs is the HRES, people analytics, people like me, analytics, and those that they are in HR operations. All of them, based upon this new Gartner, you know, operation model, will be anchored by an innovation command center. It's clear that departure from traditional structure coming to reflect to the pressure as HR is under the faster, personalized, tech-enabled, I can say, without losing its strategic soul. Dave, as the architect of the original Unleash model, I love to ask you, how do you see this HR operating model evolving in the future? Do you agree with this model, first of all? And what is your view on that? I know that a lot
I love that somebody says we have a brand new model. We don't agree with the overage model. We're going to have HR business partners. We're going to have centers of expertise, and we're going to have HR operations. And I go, that's been there forever. I mean, this is not a new model whatsoever. What's new is how we manage the task of getting that work done. And so AI is a great tool. The HR business partner, first of all, I have to say something. Everybody says the overage model is 3-legged stool. That's not right. By the way, I'm Dave Ulrich. I know my model. The model doesn't start with a 3-legged stool. It starts with you should structure your HR department the way your business is structured. Let me say that again more clearly. Many businesses are highly centralized. There can be a small mom and pop organization of 1,000 people, that's a big organization. It can be McDonald's. It's one basic big organization worldwide. It's centralized. In that logic, do not use this model. You have a centralized HR staff, staffing, training, development that serves the entire enterprise. Government agencies may be dedicated in one business, or a business may be highly decentralized. It's a holding company in multiple businesses. That's Tata in India. It's Virgin, Berkshire Hathaway in the US. It's then you build an HR function in each business. The only place this model applies is when you're a multiple, global, diversified, multi-divisional firm. Then you have business partners embedded in the business or the geography. You have experts in the COEs, the expertise, and then you have the HR operations. So the first step, I'll share this because I think it often gets misunderstood. I was working with the company, and they said, we want to know how to organize our HR function. And I said, how's the business organized? Is it centralized, decentralized, or multidivisional? And they said, I don't know. Go ask your business leaders where they want to go as a business. And in that 2x2 grid, I'm using a lot of 2x2s, the business leaders were all over the map. Some wanted to be more centralized, some more decentralized, some multidivisional. And I said to her, and she said, so what do I do? And I said, don't do anything in HR. because get your business leaders to come to an understanding of how they should organize the business to succeed with customers and investors. Then you can make HR work. So for me, that's the first principle of what I would say. Now, having said that, we looked at 8 consulting firms that have reinvented the HR operating model, and they've all reinvented it with generalist, that's called an HR business partner, specialist, that's a center of expertise, and operational efficiency. That's the fundamental 3 principles of any professional services firm. If you work in a law firm, an accounting firm, an ad agency, you've got generalists who embed their customer relationship managers, you've got deep expertise, and you've got operational excellence. So the model is fundamentally the same. I think HR is going to get improved through AI. I mean, that digital solutions is going to infuse itself into business partner. It's going to infuse itself into center of expertise. And AI is going to do many of the tasks that were done before, both more efficiently and more effectively. So I think the model makes sense. In the middle would be, I would change HR Innovation Command to stakeholder value. That the whole purpose of this model is not to do HR innovation. That's still inside the firm. That's strategic HR. It's to do stakeholder HR. What can we do in that governance structure? And we've tested that in our research. We find that the thing that's most critical to an HR operating model is the relationships among the HR people. Do we work well as a team? That's going to predict stakeholder value with customers and investors more than some of the other activities. So I gave a long answer to that. I think the 3-legged stool is still there. I think the focus is on stakeholder value or stakeholder HR, not internal. And I hope we create a team that those 3 dimensions really work well with each other.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dave. And I hope that people, in the chat, they get your answer for the great HR operating model. Sorry, George.
No, it's actually it comes back to this, but also goes on to the next slide as well.
Yeah.
Because what came out of that from what Dave has just said is the fact that, when you look at the value chain and people look at the value chain, especially people in leadership, they tend to look at processes and systems and collaboration and communication, but not from the HR point of view. Once you've decided what systems and processes you have working back from the customer, then I think HR needs to go in and say, okay, fine, how can we put our processes in place to enhance what the customer is actually receiving? So I'm with you there, Dave. I think you're absolutely spot on.
2 thumbs up.
Love that. Really to be business in the center of all of these 3 pods is very important. Thank you, George. Thank you, Dave. The last slide they have selected, it was very difficult, Dave, to select, but I have selected the skills. We need to talk about, skills. This slide maps the skills employers consider core today, and those expect to use even more by 2030. 40% of core skills are expected to change by 2030. And the average shelf life of a skill is now just 4 years. We know that, all the research is showing 4 years. That means that if we learn today, may already be outdated by 2029. So what stands out is right? So one slide, tech fluency, AI, big data, system thinking, analytical thinking, and the other deeply human capabilities that Dave, you have, already discussed: empathy, curiosity, resilience, creativity, thinking, social influence. All of these is just not about technical upskilling; is about human-centric reinvention. Lot of research that I have shared also in the beginning of this week is about human centricity in the middle of the graph. Why we are discussing about human centricity in the age of AI. It's very interesting for me. All the research that I'm sharing today is there is human centricity, creativity, etc. Because we are in the age of AI. It will be paradoxal, Dave. You have already, shared your view for 26 in your LinkedIn article. I would love to hear your perspective, Dave. What do you see is the most critical skills for HR professional and leadership in the coming years, especially for next year? We are discussing about the top trend for next year, and how should organizations start preparing their people for that?
I love the World Economic Forum. They do this chart almost every year, and it has some of the patterns that are true. I think the soft skills in light blue are the hard ones. And they're the differentiators. The dark skill, even at the top, AI, that's a hard skill, but it's not a differentiator. People will learn how to go on AI and do chat. I love the soft skills. And you say for HR, I'm going to suggest two. One is navigating paradox. It comes out in our research as critical. You got to be soft and hard, that skill. You got to be long-term and short-term. It's the and also logic. And the second one that jumps out, as I've been listening to some really senior HR people whom I respect so much, the word that comes across over and over and over again is courage. Courage. Do we in HR have the courage to influence a decision? Something bad is happening in the company. We in HR are the early warning system. We sense it. We see it. Do I have the courage to go down and sit with the senior business leader and say, something's going wrong? I don't even have all the data yet, but my instinct says something's going wrong. Let's talk. And some of the senior HR leaders whom I respect the absolute most, they say, what I don't always see in the next generation is enough courage to take a position and influence with hard data, Nicholas. And if anyone wants data, follow your stuff. But sometimes it's soft data. It's intuition. It's a sense. And the gut feel, whatever you want to call it. So paradox navigation, not managing paradox, navigating it, and courage to influence.
I love that. The courage is absolutely fantastic.
George?
George?
I've had a question come up from Vina, who says, "Hi, Dave. Is it true that HR is losing confidence of their work by seeing trending AI work?"
Yes, if done wrong. No, if done right. If AI is an enabler and a source of advantage in the marketplace, it's a terrific tool. I mean, I used to ask in workshops a couple of years ago, how many have used AI in the last 24 hours? It'd be 20%. Now I don't even need to ask. How many have used AI in the last 24 hours? 90%. I mean, it's there, and you can't deny it. And if we use it well, and I think we've really had a terrific conversation, Nicholas. Nicholas, you're going to ask a question. I got to ask you. How hopeful are you, 0 to 10, 10 is high, about 2026, and why?
I'm always, person that is hopeful. It depends on what in the business you are discussing about, the future. I hope that that people will think about, more themselves, will show more personal creativity than using these tools. AI, as you said, will be the future. But I predict as well something that I don't see in any of the research, but I really have this sentiment that will come AI pushback. Something that could happen, because all the consulting firm, everywhere we see that AI, but we just in 1 hour we discuss all together. We see the pros and cons as well of the AI. That throughout the research, etc. So there is a possibility for AI pushback coming in the future. That's something that I can predict. But Dave, now coming back to me for a question, because I love to ask you something more personal, because last time you asked me something personal about why you are doing, this research, why you are sharing with everyone. You don't have sponsor, you're not working for any consulting, etc. Why you are doing that? I answer you because I am passionate about, the domain, etc. And that's why I'm doing that. You have published dozen of books, 30 books, more than 30 books, hundreds of articles, more than 200, and shaped the thinking of generation of HR professional. And here you are, still leading the conversation in nearly end of the 2025, and we are going beyond. In the age of AI, agentic system, exponential change. So my question for you, what is your secret, Dave? How do you stay curious, relevant, and impactful across decades of transformation? What advice, and the second question, what advice give you to HR leaders who want to keep learning, contributing, and thriving in this new era?
My wife, whose picture, if you see it, is on the stand, is a very good psychologist. She says I have OCD, organization compulsive disorder. I love to fix organizations, and I believe organizations change people's lives. I was in a meeting recently with some heads of HR. They represented, I think it was between 13 and 15 million employees. Where do you work? The things you decide today within a month or two will affect 13 to 15 million people. That's my compulsive disorder. I have a personal value system of the dignity of the individual and the great human spirit that exists within each of us. And I think HR is a pathway to get there. I have people ask me, Dave, you're getting old. I've got a 7 in front of my age.
No.
Aren't you retired? Didn't you manage your money well enough? And I'm going, why would I retire? This is the most exciting work that shapes worlds. And of course, bodies age, and we all have that kind of stuff. But Nicholas, I with you, this is not a job. It's a calling. It's a passion. And that's what keeps me going. And having people like you who share knowledge, who become colleagues. And someday we're going to get together and have a great meal, probably in Paris, because that's the right place to have a great meal. Not. Oh, I was going to say, George, not the UK, but I shouldn't have said that. So my thanks to each of you and to those listening. Join the three of us and many others. This is a journey of changing lives of people, that they can reach their potential. And I always end, and my last comment will be to advice. The best is always yet ahead. The best is always yet ahead. Don't live back. That's AI. Live forward. So that's my final caveat. Thank you.
I think we're in the UK, we're going to see real problems in the HR world. The new employment legislation has just been passed and signed off by the King. The thing is, this is a brand new piece of legislation that is going to replace the Employment Rights Act that we had, but is also going to do a lot of other things as well and affect other pieces of legislation. And for HR, that's going to mean change to policies, change to employment contracts, all sorts of things. And it's going to be a big job to do. And I think what worries me for 2026 is the fact that HR is going to get waylaid with this new legislation, having to change all their policies and their employment contracts and everything else. And we're going to lose the element of HR actually supporting change, which is, you know, a big need for the future. So perhaps in the UK, we have it slightly different at the moment, in as much as we're likely to get sidetracked with this new piece of legislation.
Thank you, George. Last question, and it's noted here, Dave. If you were to choose a single word, HR word of the year 2026, what would it be?
I'm going to have to go real quick here, but stakeholder HR.
Stakeholder HR. Very wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dave, to be with us from Operating Model Empathy. We have seen today's conversation remind us HR is not evolving, it's leading. To everyone, join us. This was our final Lunch and Learn of the year with Dave. We had absolutely honored to have him. What started as a simple idea become a global dialogue between real voices shaping the future of work. I would like to thank all the guests that they join us, this year: Zana, Isabella, Lucia, Nicola, Joanna, Andy, Bernard, Jos, Masroor, Robin, Christina, everyone from around the world, from Israel, Pakistan, France, UK, everyone. Every Friday we are joining us. It was the year of acceleration this year. 26 will be the year of reinvention. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Dave. Have a great holidays and see you in 2026.
Thank you.